I'm a little speechless right now. It feels very surreal. I am happy to say that today marks 10 years of my career with Eco Vegan Gal. 10 years ago, which is really hard to say. I wrote a blog post that started it all. And to be fair, that was like the first official blog post. I believe I might have started actually writing before that, because if I go back, if you can actually see all of this from on my old website, my very first website, which I should link in the description, but it's ecovegangal.blogspot.com, because I used to use Blogspot. And I remember actually that night that I started setting everything up, and I kind of dabbled around with some different names, but I really wanted to use the term eco-vegan because I was super passionate about the environment back then. I have to say that's the passion is like more subdued than it was back then, but yeah, I decided to call it Eco Vegan Gal. I wanted to call it Eco Vegan Girl, but there was this blogger that I was really a fan of, and like she was actually my big inspiration for starting everything. And her website was called Green LA Girl. I was like, like maybe if I had the word girl in my name, I would seem like I was copying her. So I changed it to Gal, and that's the story of the name. And I just began, and I looked over the website today. In fact, actually, why don't I just do a screen share? Because I thought it might be kind of fun to go back over some old posts. Let's see here, ecovegangal.blogspot. Here we go. It's so nuts looking at this. What's really nuts about all of this, as I'm pulling up the website, I'll say, I have been waiting for this moment of saying that I am at the 10-year mark for a long time, for many years, and it's just it's really crazy. It feels very surreal because time just goes by so fast, and I remember being so excited for this day, and like today it just feels like any other day. I've thought off and on throughout this year, like, how am I going to celebrate 10 years? And I actually had this big idea earlier this year about doing a road trip. And then that just kind of like, the priority of that dwindled for me, and now I'm wondering if I'll do that in 2019. And I thought it'd be really fun to celebrate this day, this milestone, by going around to all these major cities in the U.S. And I wouldn't be surprised if I do that in 2019. And then I thought, I've been thinking about different content that I wanted to make and all of that. But, today I just put up a bunch of social media posts. I put up my first Instagram post for like the first time in 2 months and posted it elsewhere. And I'm doing this video, and like, I don't know, I feel like it maybe should be a bigger thing, but I think this is like a really good representation of where I'm at with my life right now, is that right now in my life, like not only today, but just recently, I haven't wanted to be doing as much. And it's really interesting to go back to this old website and see how active I was. And I've gone through so many phases of Eco Vegan Gal, being super, super active with it. And I don't remember what that feeling is like, to be honest. It's interesting too, like, here, I'll screen share while I'm talking. let's see. Hopefully you can see that all right. And yeah, I think that should look good. Ooh, I can zoom in too. Here we go. So this is like kind of what the website looked like. This is what it looked like in 2012. What I don't remember if I have photos of exactly what it looked like when I started it. It was like there was purple, I remember. But this is like my old website before the new one was made in 2012, and now I'm working on another version of it. So this gives you a little bit of a feel. And then if you come over here on the side, if any of you are curious about this, you can click on the blog archive and scroll down to October 2008. And then what's really interesting is I found out that I posted 55 posts in the month of October. Like, this is what I'm talking about, like all this content, and we still haven't even gotten to the very first one. It was a little bit before this. Come on. This is what I mean. Like, I was posting so much. Okay, so here is technically the first entry. But then there's this one, and I don't remember the story of this post right here because it says October 9th. So I don't know if I wrote this on October 9th and then didn't actually publish until the 20th, or if somehow I just screwed up the date in this. I honestly have no idea. But it wouldn't make sense why I would have published this earlier and then put this like first entry post here. So I'm a little confused, but let's just say officially the 20th. It's been at least 10 years today. And it's just so fascinating because, first of all, I would like write these little blurbs, which in hindsight made a lot more sense on like Facebook or Twitter, right? But back then, in 2008, I don't even think I was on Twitter until 2009. And I think I started both Facebook, or all three, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter in 2009, a few months after this, because this was just meant to be like a little hobby for me, you know? And it just became something I started to take really seriously. And it's interesting going through these old posts because, let me switch back to the little page here. Like all these things that we just do differently now. Like this little paragraph I would post on Facebook. And this might be a blog. I don't blog right now. But, you know, I guess this would have made sense as a blog. But I didn't know, like, anything. Like, it's so different. These would all be affiliate links now. And back then, I wasn't part of an affiliate program. I joined an affiliate program for Amazon pretty early on. Let's see what else we have here. I think I took this photo of the toothpaste. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like I might have. But that would have been like an Instagram story or Facebook post tip. And it's just, that wasn't, Facebook and Instagram just weren't what they are today. And I remember actually, I took a lot of photos. So I used to take pictures with, I think the iPhone was around it. Yeah, I think the iPhone came out in 2007, right? I worked for Apple at the time when the iPhone came out. If you didn't know this, let's see. When did the iPhone? Yeah, it came out last year because 2007, because last year was like their 10-year anniversary. So the iPhone was out. I think I probably used the iPhone to take pictures. And I just would always find things to take pictures of. And then I also was getting more and more into like a DSLR camera. So I would use that frequently, and I was like, I wish I had a place to post pictures, and it was such a pain to like post them all on my blog and like, you know, make carousel images and all that other stuff that I would do. It was just like so time consuming, and it just didn't like feel worthwhile. And now we have, you know, so my point being that I don't know if Instagram was around. Let's see when was Instagram established? When was Instagram? Instagram was created in 2010. So actually in October 2010. So I created my blog like 2 years before Instagram came out. And nobody was really talking about Instagram that I knew until like years afterwards. So I first started using Instagram in 2012, and like I didn't know anybody else. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I knew like a couple people that were using it. And it was just this super, super tiny app that I remember my friend who convinced me to use Instagram in 2012 saying how she just liked it as a place to put up her photos. And I was like, oh, well, why wouldn't you just use like the other galleries out there? Like that's the mindset that I was in. So, and that's 4 years after I started Eco Vegan Gal. Anyways, it's just so fascinating to see how much things have changed and how my work has changed and my whole life. When I started Eco Vegan Gal, I was working full time as a personal assistant. I worked for a very well-known director and actor who will remain nameless. I don't know if it's published anywhere online. I think I've always kept it really private who I used to work for, but I had like an amazing, amazing job like as the assistant at their house. And it was like, in hindsight, those were some really good days. Today I was going through photos to try to find the one that I wanted to use for the 10-year anniversary post. And it was like just looking back on the way that I looked and like pictures of me at my old job. In fact, if you actually go back to the very beginning of my YouTube channel, there's a number of videos that I shot at my old job. Which in hindsight, I don't think my boss would have been thrilled with. But back then, you know, in 2009 when I started YouTube, it was just so casual, you know, and there weren't really any rules. Everyone was just kind of making it up as they went along. And so it's just kind of like so super interesting to look back on that. So yeah, and the photo I posted today, if I'll show you just as a visual representative of what I'm talking about, representation, whatever. Let me go over here. It's so interesting. Like I just posted that like the milestone and like pictures and stuff, and just to get all these feedback from people I've known over my life. It's actually like a very, very, I guess the internet connection hasn't been that great, so I don't know what's going on right now. It's just this is not the best time for my internet connection to be wonky, but we'll figure it out. I hope it's okay for you. Now part of me is like, should I go back and restart this? For anybody watching, are you able to like see and hear me okay? Oh, I just got a very sweet note from Yadi who said she wanted to just say congratulations. That's so sweet. Thank you. It's people like her that just really make all of this worthwhile, you know? Having done this for so many years and just all the people that I've met over time. And another person is Vai, whose name I feel like I'm always pronouncing wrong, and I apologize. But you have been such a big part of my life since at least 2012. Like, I remember living in San Francisco, right? Because I think we met in person, right? Isn't that the story, that we met in person when I worked at the Santa Monica Apple store before I moved to San Francisco? I think that's right. Thank you for saying congratulations. But anyways, you know, there are people that have just been in 2010. See, look, what a great memory. I mean, that also is so long ago. And like so early on in everything. 2010 is when I really started to take things more seriously, and it's just crazy. It's really interesting. So, okay, I was going to tell you a little story here. So, this is the picture I posted today. This photo was from a photo shoot that my friend and I did for fun in March, right around my birthday, 2008. So this is that photo is before I started blogging. And the turning point for me was that I went to this like talk that bloggers were giving and got really inspired by just what blogging can do. And I was super passionate about environmental things and veganism. I didn't know that many vegans. All I wanted to do was like be more eco-friendly. And at my job, that personal assistant job I mentioned, like one of my big passions was finding new ways for like the household and the family to be more eco-friendly. And I was just always talking about it and researching and learning and all of that, on and on. So that's like the blog just made sense because I wanted that outlet. But back in 2008, like blogging was pretty big, but it's nowhere near like what it's like now. I didn't really know anybody. Like I said, I went to this. I remember sorry, I'm jumping around, but I have one friend in like 2003 that started blogging. She was like a college friend of mine, and I always was so fascinated by it. And I think I actually kind of started to blog on a personal level earlier on, and I started a YouTube channel earlier on, and so I was already kind of doing these things and dabbling in it. But the eco-vegan gal concept didn't come to me until like late 2008. So October 2008 to be specific. And it was just something that I was going to do for fun. And it's just so crazy to see how it developed, because all I wanted to do was post like everything that I learned, everything that I saw, it's just like I wanted to put my everything online. And if you look back at my old posts, it was very much like educational. Hey, did you know this? Like, here's a fun fact. Like, I just was never running out of ideas because I felt like there was so much to be shared. And I would do that on my lunch breaks. I would do that when I got home from work. And I felt so burnt out after a while. I ended up quitting that job. I don't remember exactly when that was. It was in 2009. I have like no memory of what month it was when I quit that job, but it was probably mid to late 2009. And I did it because I felt really burnt out. I'd working that job for like 3.5 years, and my passions were shifting. So one of the reasons that I had that job was because it was for this massive filmmaker, and like my career path at the time was to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a director. I wanted to act. I wanted to produce, all this stuff. That was my career path for so much of my life. I started making movies when I was in like, let's see, 1998 or something. And so like, or most of my life actually, I have footage from like my whole childhood and like putting on productions and plays. I was always like making videos, and I went to film school, and I just, my whole life was pushed into that direction of filmmaking. So this is like the pinnacle of my film career, working for this really well. I mean, like, if I said his name, some of you might not know it, but if you look him up, you would know who this person was, because he was like, it was a huge deal when I got that job. It was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm working for this person type of a thing. And yeah, it was a huge deal. I got that job, but it was very, very challenging for a number of reasons. And I think that Eco Vegan Gal, the blog, gave me this courage to pursue something else, which I never thought I would have done. One of my bosses, so I was the personal assistant to the family, so I kind of had like a boss, and then like there was a lot of people involved with my job. It was basically the family was my boss, let's put it that way. And one of them encouraged me to start Twitter because this person wanted to learn Twitter too. So it was like my assignment for work to get on Twitter and figure it out. And I loved it. And then I got on Facebook. I don't know if it was before or after. There is a way to look on Facebook and see when you joined. How would I figure that out? I remember I joined Facebook, like created my personal profile, I think in like 2004, I want to say. Maybe 2003. It's been quite a long time. I know it might take me a while to figure this out, but how long have I been on here? Let's see. Vi, if you're still watching, do you know? I know you can do this with Twitter. How long have you been on Twitter? There's like a website. Okay, yeah. Let's see when I started Twitter. I guess you like. Hopefully this is okay to be on here. Let's find. Okay. So I've been on Twitter since April 13th, 2009. Wow. Okay. So I was still at that old job, so that means I hadn't quit that job yet. But in terms of how long, when did you start your Facebook page? Oh, you can go to like your activity log, I guess. This seems too complicated. Okay, wait, here's my activity log. Okay, 2010. Does it go back farther than that? Whoa, this is nuts. I did not know you could do this, you guys. I'm gonna have to share this with you. Look at this. This is so crazy. So if you can click on activity log and then just scroll back. So the weird thing is it let me click on 2010. I can't imagine that that's when I started it. Because I remember having this page. I thought it was at my other job, that old job. So much content. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just going to keep talking as I browse through here. Because, anyways, it's just like crazy. I mean, because to do something for 10 years and you just see how much you've changed as a person and how much your perspective on life changes and all of that. So go back to my story. I ended up quitting this personal assistant job. And I had already kind of wanted to. I was getting frustrated with it. And I found another job being a personal assistant. And it was for working for these documentary filmmakers. And they were like the cool documentary. I think I had already heard of them. They've put out a ton of really great documentaries and books, and now they have a podcast, all this stuff. It's probably fine if I told you who they are, but I don't need to. I don't think it's super important to the story. But they had a job on Craigslist, and this is actually one of my favorite parts of this story is that I was just starting to learn about manifestation. I had like heard about The Secret. I don't know if I had seen it yet, the movie, but I like knew a little bit about it. And I don't remember exactly why I did this, but I believed in it somehow. In 2009, I sat down and I wrote out exactly what I wanted in a job. And literally, I think it was either the very next day, it was in a very short amount of time. Like if I could find this piece of paper, it would be amazing because it just goes to, sorry, I just switched my other camera accidentally. I basically manifested an incredible job for myself, and they needed me to start really soon. So I quit my job, my old filmmaking personal assistant job, and moved into the perfect transition job. Meaning, it was working for filmmakers, so I still had that, which I still, is interested in filmmaking, not nearly as much as I used to be, but it was enough for me to feel like I wanted to, I didn't want to let it go. But they were also like eco-friendly documentary filmmakers. And I walked in, had a great interview with them, and they asked me to start right away. So I quit my old job and gave like very, very little notice, like 2 days notice. I wrote like a resignation email and sent it off. And like my boss was not happy. It was like, so I think back on it and I cringe a little bit because yeah, it wasn't the best way to leave a job. But I left the job. I went to this other job, became a personal assistant again. And that job ended up being a really pivotal thing for me because it taught me so much about being an entrepreneur, because I was working for like grassroots filmmakers And they were just like so, I actually, in hindsight, like it'd be so wonderful to have I'm still in touch with them. It'd be so amazing to have a conversation with them now. I see them every once in a while and we kind of reminisce about the old days, but like to really sit down and chat with them, maybe on my upcoming podcast, which if you didn't know yet, I'm starting a podcast again. And that, I don't know when that's going to come out, but I think that that would be a really fascinating conversation to have. They actually put out this book where, timing wise, I just found it on my old way back in 2010 on Facebook. It's kind of annoying right now. I'm like trying to scroll back to see my whole history on Facebook and when I started. And for some reason, it won't let you just jump to a year before 2010. Oh my gosh, here it is. Whoa, I guess I did start my page in 2010. I would not have guessed that. So January 19th, 2010, and I wrote here, finally made a page. Didn't think it was necessary, but seems to be the trend now. Thanks for coming by. Hope you'll be a fan. Wow. I'm taking a screenshot of this. What? This is so crazy. I can't believe that I didn't start the page until 2010. That was like so much farther after Twitter in April 2009. Wow, this is like a big trip down memory lane. I think I just was in resistance. I didn't think like, what's the point of having a page? So I guess I was working. Maybe I wasn't working for January 2010. I quit my job, this job that I was just sharing the story about. I quit that job in, I think, February or March 2010. And the reason for that was that I realized that all I wanted to do was Eco Vegan Gal. And I got the courage. It was like life just unfolded in such a beautiful way. And when I look back on everything, it all makes sense. And I think this is just such a big lesson that I want to pass on, is that there are times, all the time, I have doubts. And I wonder if I'm doing things the right way, and I wonder if I'm making the right decisions. And it actually kind of makes me want to cry, because I feel like I've been having those feelings so much lately. I feel like I'm in a period of transition again, and there's so much that I want to do, and I feel so much resistance, and it's just like I've been struggling a lot with my career. But to sit here and know that I've made it 10 years is really remarkable. And this is the thing that's so important. It's so easy to get lost in our heads and think about the past and the future. But the thing that I keep learning over and over and over again is that life is so much more about the present. And if I sit here and think, wow, I made it 10 years. Despite all odds, despite everything that was challenging, I have never given up on Eco Vegan Gal. It's gone through phases where I didn't post as much. It's gone through so many phases, times where I've done very few videos and not a lot of Instagram posts and stopped blogging, and there's just so much. But I've worked on Eco Vegan Gal little by little every day for the past 10 years. Every single day. And it's less about the specifics, the outcome. It's not about how many followers I have, which I can easily get in my head about that. Like thumbs ups and thumbs downs and comments and people following you, unfollowing you, and subscribers and likes and blah, 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 on and on and on. I've gotten in my head about that more times than I can count. But I'm still here. And I can't tell you how many people I've met over the past 10 years that have given up. And not to judge them, I'm just saying it's not easy to do something for 10 years. And to still love it too. Like, I really love what I do. the form keeps changing, and a lot of me changes, right? And I've been thinking a lot about how I want to make this more about my brand, my name as the brand versus Eco Vegan Gal as the brand. And something that I think is very possible to happen in the near future is completely shifting to Whitney Lauritsen as the brand. Like, I feel so much more called to that. And I don't know if I'll ever fully phase out Eco Vegan Gal, but it might be phased out over time. I think it's going to take a while, but who knows? One thing I've been thinking a lot about is like starting a new channel, just completely from scratch, the Whitney Lauritsen channel. Sometimes I've thought, maybe I'll just make this channel the Whitney Lauritsen channel. Maybe I'll change the Eco Vegan Gal channel over to the Whitney Lauritsen channel. I don't know. That decision feels really challenging. I've thought about just starting a whole new Instagram and Twitter and all of that and doing it simultaneously with Eco Vegan Gal, which sounds like so much work. And I don't know if I want to do it that way, but I kind of like the idea of starting from scratch. And just not starting over, but just like fully transitioning. And I see that there's a lot of overlap between everything I've been doing with Eco Vegan Gal and things that I kind of want to do more with my name. The big question is, do I just merge them together, or does it just transition and there's some overlap, and then I'll eventually just stop posting content on the Eco Vegan Gal username? That to me seems a little bit better than just switching over all my usernames, which sounds like a complete pain in the butt. The only downside is that, you know, I have to remind my audience so much that I'm posting over there, and like, you know, when you start to think about numbers, it's like, well, it's like losing all those numbers. But honestly, if I reach deep down and really, really connect with myself, which I've been trying so hard to do lately, deep down, I don't give a shit about the numbers. I feel like the only reason I care about numbers is because other people care, and I feel like I should care, and I feel like I'm being judged based on my numbers. But there are so many people, you included, that watch these videos. Like, anybody who watches this channel, these long videos, these unedited, raw, authentic videos, you are the most important people to me, truly. And I really think that you need to know that, because that loyalty, that interest means more to me than any of my numbers. I was watching this old video with my sister. I found like these like recordings I had made of my sister and I FaceTime. Or was it called FaceTime? I think it was called something else before FaceTime. There was like another just video chatting feature that you could do. And my sister and I would do that very frequently. And in that video, I was telling her how I posted my turkey video, which is one of my first videos on the Eco Vegan Gal channel. Maybe not the first, because I think that was at the end of, that was like right around Thanksgiving, 2009. So right? I don't know, actually. I could also go look that up. But my point being, I'll just look it up while I'm talking to you. That was on the very early days of Eco Vegan Gal. I posted this video of my turkey. So let me see. Let me switch over. I guess I can just go to Eco Vegan Gal turkey. Oh, it's so easy to find. I love that. Okay. That was it says it's 8 years ago. So if you've never seen this, here, I'm going to screen share again. So it's this one. Look at these old videos. Oh my God, they're so embarrassing. So this is it, my pet turkey. And this is crazy. It's got over 200,000 views. And it's just a simple little video. It's very old school. And I posted this, November 21st, 2009. So over a year after I created Eco Vegan Gal. And it's a really sweet video from that my grandfather filmed in 1991. Oh my gosh. If you've never seen it, highly recommend it because it's one of my favorites. But there's this there's a recording of my sister and I having a FaceTime. Probably it was in 2009, 2010, around that time. My sister and I were having a discussion, and I said to her, "Oh my gosh, have you seen how many views that turkey video got?" And she's like, "No, how many?" And I'm like, 200. Like, I was so excited about 200 views. Now, back then, YouTube was very, very, very different. Again, I started my YouTube channel for Eco Vegan Gal in early 2009. And I was just great. Like, anything over 100 just felt like massive. And because back then, like, people just weren't as into YouTube. YouTube was like kind of more of a niche thing. And I was like one of the only vegan creators on there. And so it was just like easy. It was just like, here's my life. There was no thought about like this being a career. And it wasn't like how many numbers you get and all of this vanity metrics. It was just like posting content and being excited if people saw it. And I felt the same way about my blog. And it's just so funny. Like, now it's gotten over 200,000 views. It's literally, 100 times what it had when I was excited about it back in 2009 or 2010. So it's just that perspective that I feel like is so important. And, the thing about numbers is that numbers help people measure some way, like how serious you are, how dedicated, do you have an audience? But people are judging so much about you without really knowing what's going on. And I think what's happened to me over the past 10 years is that I started to base my self-worth on those numbers. And that's really, really sad. But it's something that a lot of people do now. Like social media and online content has changed so much about how we interact with each other and how we value ourselves. Even if you're not doing it as a career, I wouldn't be surprised if you feel like, oh, I only get this many likes and I only have this many followers. And, people say this to me sometimes. And it makes me feel a little bit sad. So much of conversations are based around numbers. Like, you're like, oh, have you heard of so-and-so? She has X amount of followers. Like, that's the conversation. Or when you go to like work with a brand, it's like, how many followers do you have? And I've just been thinking about that so much lately, and how I don't even want to look at it anymore. And maybe that is part of the answer that I'm searching for in terms of what's next for me. Like, maybe starting a brand new brand with just Whitney Lauritsen and starting from scratch, keeping everything. Like, I just, for those of you who love what I've been doing, it's not going to go away. I'm not going to delete Eco Vegan Gal. I'm not going to change that. That'll probably stay around for a good amount of time. I just think I'm going to simultaneously be doing my own thing with Whitney Lauritsen. And it feels really daunting because I haven't been very good at keeping up with new projects, but I'm trying to push through that resistance. And I wonder how freeing it would be to just have an account and not worry about how many followers it had and how many likes it had and all of that stuff. Like, what would I do differently? How would I feel about myself? How would I interact with you differently? Let's see. I want to acknowledge some live comments. Vi said, I was so frustrated with things, and after you, I felt there was actually a better way to do things, and you gave me hope that changes could come from us. That's so sweet. And then Vi said, you had 2,000 fans when I became one. So he became a part of the community in 2010. But fans where? On Facebook or Twitter? Like, there's so many platforms, right? And then Francie said, do the opposite of starting from scratch. Go back to the old videos and re-edit and create fun videos showing you 21 eating in your car or you and your sister traveling, etc. That could be interesting. Although I really try not to edit that much. Like, I have a big, I think I've mentioned this before, how over the past month, like while I was traveling on the East Coast, I've recorded so much content. I have like a bunch of projects that I've committed to doing. And man, the resistance to editing them is strong. Ugh. but I'm trying to get at least a few of them done in the next 2 weeks before I start traveling again. So editing is something I resist a lot. I just got this new computer a few weeks ago, and like I thought, oh, when I get the new computer, it's going to be so much easier. It's a lot easier to edit than my old one, but I just have been resisting editing. And for those of you who are just joining, welcome. I'm talking about my 10-year journey with Eco Vegan Gal. It's been 10 years today. I started Eco Vegan Gal officially on October 20th, 2008. And you can go back and watch the beginning of this video later on. But thank you for joining. There was all of a sudden like a surge of people watching. So I hope that you go back to the beginning to see some of my story. Now I'm reading some live comments. And thank you, Vayu, for enjoying my old videos. And then, okay. So Vayu, do you just remember off the top of your head that it was 2,000 fans? So Facebook had like a huge explosion for me in like 2013 or 14. I just lucked out, like pure luck, and got into some algorithm and had so many fans. I don't remember, I think I was maybe like 50,000 or something, and I shot up to over 100,000 fans in just like a few months or less. It was crazy. It was just like floods and floods. I've had a lot of luck over the years. And thank you, Ted, for the congratulations. Francie asked, are you in a position financially where you cannot care about view numbers? That's an interesting question. Let's talk about money. So, where do I get my income from? A lot of different places. It's constantly fluctuating. So, actually, let me see if I can pull this up. For those of you who didn't know this about me, I also teach content creation strategies. I'm super passionate about that. I don't know. Let me see. I want to pull up this list for you. Where is this? Give me a second. Oh, I think this is it. Okay, good. So, for those of you that didn't know this, I have another brand called Creative Wealth and another brand called Wellevator, and both of them have elements of teaching other people about being a content creator. So, YouTubers, bloggers, podcasters, etc. I've been teaching that for years. I have been private coaching. I have consulted. I have done so much around all that stuff. And so I have a really big passion about business. So anyways, last year I did this program called 30 Ways to Make Money as a Content Creator, which I am going to pull up right now to remind myself. I'll put this in the show notes for any of you that are curious. It's an online class that you can take. And here are some ways that I make money. That was like a little side note. First of all, Google ad revenue. So I make ad revenue from videos like this. From any of my videos, almost always have ads on them. But that's very little. Right now, to answer Francie's question, and thank you also to Angry Vegan and Vegan Goonie for being here, and the congratulations. I appreciate that. Thank you genuinely to each and every one of you for watching and being part of my life for however long you have been. Knowing people like Francie, Vayu, Ted, Vegan Goonie, like I remember your names because you come on and you're regular, and that makes the world of a difference. So Francie asked, I'm going to put this back up on the screen. Are you in the position? So views for AdSense directly related. And that's why you see a lot of YouTubers doing clickbait. So their thumbnails, their titles, all their content are based around how many views they can get so that they can get ad revenue. That's like a huge source of income for a lot of people. And it shifts a lot because there are times when ad revenue is not as good as others. So in the past, ad revenue was great. Many of us were making so much money. I started making ad revenue consistently from my videos in like 2012. That was when I first got my YouTube paycheck. And now it's just like, it's a very, very minimal number. I would say it's probably under, maybe it's like $50 a month that I get for my views. My videos do not get a lot of views right now. So not caring, like there's part of me that doesn't care that much, because if I cared a lot, I'd probably be doing a lot more clickbait videos and better thumbnails and shorter edited, like the very like stylized edited videos that you see. Like I'd probably be doing more of that if I cared more, but I don't enjoy doing all of that stuff, so it's not worth it to me. I could make a lot of money, and I could probably be like, it's all very, very connected, right? The other thing is affiliate. So I am part of a ton of affiliate programs. I am always very transparent with you when I use them. Most of the links in my YouTube descriptions are affiliate links, meaning that if you buy something that I recommend to you and you use the link that I put in a YouTube video, Facebook post, anywhere, Instagram, my website, a newsletter, if you click that link and purchase something that I recommended, then I will get paid a small commission. And that's actually one of my favorite ways to make money. I don't make that much from that either. So views are tied into that too, because the more people that see your videos or view the other types of content that you do, the more chances you have of somebody clicking on something, and then the more chances you have of them buying something. So views are very tied into that. Another way that I make income is sponsorships, and sponsorships are 100%, well, maybe not 100, I would say at least 90% connected to views. So sponsors these days care a lot about how many views you get on your videos, how many likes you get on Instagram, all of that stuff. Like they're very numbers oriented. They've gotten very savvy over the years. I've been working with sponsors since 2012, and over the years it shifted a lot, right? Sometimes I work with sponsors that don't really seem to care. They just like me, they like what I do, and they like my audience, and that's great. They're not as numbers oriented. And that's great because it takes the pressure off me, and it's also very organic because it's very much about, do you, like, if you like something that I'm talking about, just a few of you, like, and you buy something based on what I recommended, and that makes it the brand's worthwhile. And, oh, Vi, you're so sweet. He just said, I have to remember to whitelist your YouTube channel from AdBlock. Thank you. I use AdBlocker too. I totally get it. I think that's part of the reason ad revenue is not as good as it used to, because a lot of people use ad blockers. I mean, who wants to watch ads? Like, I don't. So, yes, thank you. That is one way that you can support my work, is to whitelist me from that. The next one would be donations. So I have a Patreon, but the Patreon has been a big struggle for me. So I started Patreon in 2015 after meeting people that worked for Patreon, and I was very encouraged. I thought this was great. Like, what a wonderful way to connect with people and have people directly support you. The trouble is that Patreon is a lot of work. I mean, the people that are doing very well on Patreon are constantly promoting it, and they're constantly creating new content for it. And it was just like, I think I'm very motivated by feedback, and the feedback I was getting from Patreon was not that great. And it's been a source of guilt for me. I've thought about shutting it down. There's still some people, some of you may be watching, who have supported me on Patreon and still do for years. And that's amazing. It's very minimal. I think I make it's definitely under $50. It's very, very little right now. I donate to other people on Patreon, so part of my Patreon check goes to other people on Patreon. So it's super small. It's actually something I was thinking about today, how I've had like a plan in place for Patreon, and I'm just finally going to work with executing that with my assistant. And yeah, so Patreon is also connected to views and subscribers, but the cool thing about Patreon is that it's all about your dedicated fans. So, you know, if 100 or 1,000 people support you on Patreon, you can actually make a really good amount of money. Right now, I don't remember how many people are supporting me on Patreon, maybe like 10 or something, because I don't promote it, and I haven't been very good about fulfilling the perk, all that stuff. Like, it's just, it would, 30, you know, when you're getting like whatever it is, like $38 or whatever I'm making on there a month, like, it's really hard to motivate yourself to do more. And I think the most I've ever made on Patreon was like 300 something, and the majority of that came from one person. So it was incredibly challenging for me to justify the time that I wanted to spend on Patreon, simply because the finances were just not there and the momentum wasn't moving, and I just got very discouraged by it. Ebooks. So I have my ebook, Healthy, Organic, Vegan on a Budget, and that is a very passive source of income. I came out with that book in 2014. Again, also not super connected to views. In fact, just talking it through, it's like I could promote that in so many different ways that weren't connected to my view count. So an ebook, and I'm coming out with a new one, by the way. I'm very curious to see how I'll handle things differently with that. I'm not that passionate about writing, and I'm not somebody that really wants to have a book, but I like the idea of compiling a lot of information in one place. So I'm working on a two right now, and we'll see what happens with those. But those you can post on Amazon, and if you have the right keywords and titles and cover, like, those can kind of have a life of their own. It's been years since I've studied ebook strategies, but to answer your question, that's not super connected to views. Physical books, not that into. Merchandise, that's another thing that's kind of like Patreon, in the sense that, you know, if you have a raving fan base and they're buying your merchandise, awesome. I've sold merchandise. I still have some t-shirts. I don't actively make them anymore. I just have like the remaining stock. So I'll link to all this stuff if you're curious, or if you just go to ecovegangal.com right now, you'll see most of these things that I'm mentioning on the like temporary website I have up there. So I've made t-shirts, I've made backpacks. Those are, I think, my big forms of merchandise that I've done. And again, like, I kind of enjoyed it, but it wasn't a huge passion. I started merchandise also before people got really into merchandise, and now I feel like it's just super saturated. Like, what's interesting about doing this work for 10 years, I've just seen all these changes. You know, 2008, just to reiterate, it was a hobby. It was not something I thought it would be a career. Content creators were not really known it wasn't a career path. Blogging, maybe. Like, there were a few bloggers that were doing really well, but Instagram, again, wasn't around in 2008. Facebook and Twitter they were just starting to become important. So I've tried a lot of things very early on. That is one of my strong suits, but my weakness is that I tend to give up on things very fast. So anyways, with merchandise, I created my first t-shirt. It was the Eco Vegan Gal t-shirts. Back in 2011, I think. And then I started my second round of t-shirts, the Food is My Healthcare shirts. That was 2013, I think. And they did pretty well. You know, it was never major. It's a lot of work when you are doing it all on your own. So I had to hire the production company to make the shirts, and then I still store them at my house, which is a huge pain. And then, you know, shipping them out and all, it's a lot of work for me. And some people have a whole system. Some people really enjoy doing that stuff. It just wasn't a huge thing. The other option would be for me there's sites out there that will do all the work for you, and you just like pay them a commission, a pretty large commission, but they'll do the work. And maybe I would do that again if I could find a really eco-friendly company to do that. Next up, speaking appearances. So every once in a while I do a speaking appearance, and very occasionally they'll pay. It's more rare than not, but this is something I've actually been wanting to focus more on, because I enjoy that, and you can make a good amount of money from speaking appearances, and that really has very little to do with how many views you get. And part of the reason I'm sharing all of this is because of Francie's question about do your views really contribute to the money that you make? So the answer is just continuously yes and no. It all depends on your method. So speaking appearances are more about your abilities as a speaker, which luckily I have a lot of skills. I've been doing speaking in professional ways in one way or another for many years. So that's something that I feel like I would really enjoy doing more, especially if I was getting paid for it. But a lot of speaking appearances, You don't get paid. It's just for exposure and experience. And you can sell from the stage. So a lot of times if you have like a program or an event or a product, you can make money from that. And I've done that too. Membership platforms. So I have Eco Vegan Pal, the membership platform, which has also been a challenge similar to Patreon. Not as hard for me as Patreon, but Eco Vegan Pal started as this dream of like having a private community, which is what it is, if you didn't know about it yet. And you can sign up at ecoveganpal.com. I'm going to be, I've been working on a lot of things for it, and luckily my assistant's helping me, and that's made it a lot easier. And usually at the end of the year, I do a push for Eco Vegan Pal, and you can join on a monthly or annual basis, or if you wait until Black Friday, which is coming up very soon, you can get a special deal on it, which is, I think, what I'm going to be doing again this year. And I was really curious about membership platforms. I've been studying them for years. And I decided to try that out, but it's hard. Membership platforms are a lot of work. I have two, actually. I have the Eco Vegan Pal platform, and then I have the Creative Wealth community. And well, both are communities technically, but one is like just like friendship and support and a private place to connect with people. And then Creative Wealth community is my coaching business. And so people join that, and I have monthly coaching calls with them. That's a lot easier for me. That's very streamlined, but I need to focus more on marketing that. So again, does that have anything to do with views? Yes and no. You need people to know about what you're doing for publicity and marketing. But does it matter how many people are following you? Sort of. Like when it comes to making money, like it's all about conversions. So you can have an audience of a few hundred people and be very successful. If you have an audience of a few thousand, you have a better chance. There's this idea in business called 1,000 true fans, which means that all you need is 1,000 raving fans to support yourself financially. And that's actually a bigger focus of mine, because as I was saying earlier, like all this focus on like how many views you get and how many subscribers, like it's so vain in a lot of ways to me. Like it's just like, if any of you have seen the new series about Jake Paul that Shane Dawson did, like that really gave me a lot of perspective. If you haven't yet, it's called The Mind of Jake Paul. It's on YouTube, and it's a YouTuber named Shane who's documenting a really well-known YouTuber named Jake Paul. And it just shows the length in which Jake has gone to make money and get followers and live this whole life that he's living. And there's this undertone of kind of like sadness, I guess, because it just feels like I don't personally want my life like that. Sure, it sounds nice to have a really amazing house, and sure, like to be famous and all that stuff, but at what cost? And in these 10 years, I've just been reflecting on that so much of, is it really worth it? And as I said earlier, I don't want to be doing the clickbait titles and the clickbait thumbnails. Yeah, I do light versions of them. Like my titles, I think about them and I pose for the photos in a certain way, but really like, I just want to be myself more, as I have been. And so usually when you're yourself and you're not clickbaity and you're not kind of showing off and trying to manipulate people or trying to entertain people, all these things that are done to get attention, that doesn't feel right to me at the core, to be honest. And I feel pressure to be a certain way because I'm a content creator and because I work in this influencer marketing world. But a lot of that's just self-imposed, and a lot of that is just what I think other people think I should be doing, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. So there's a lot of different ways to make money. I mean, I could go on and on here. I have a list because I taught this class last year called 30 Ways to Make Money. I do coaching. I do a lot of coaching. I do consulting sometimes once a year. I'll consult with a company and make a really good amount of money. Do online courses. I've done events. I I've worked with brands. Right now, I am getting a large chunk of income by working with a really, really big company. And the greatest thing about it is that I don't think it has very little to do with my numbers. It's all about my experience and my knowledge, and it's been one of the most rewarding streams of income I've ever had. And unfortunately, it's temporary as far as I know, but man, it is phenomenal. And it's really helped me feel like this is what I much prefer to do to make income. If I could be doing that work and being paid the way I am for a long time, I think it would really change the way I do things. I think I would feel a lot less pressure, and that maybe Eco Vegan Gal would just be more relaxed. But on the other hand, I'll tell you this, again from a 10-year perspective, there is like a self-imposed pressure of wanting to get things done. And I work very well when I have deadlines. If I don't have a deadline, I tend not to work as hard and I tend not to do as much. And I just kind of like fall into a more relaxed perspective, which I don't know if really serves my brand or you. I mean, the whole point, the whole reason I have a brand, and the whole deep down reason that I create content is to connect with you and to support you, to help change your life for the better in some way or another. So right now I share openly so that you can get to know me better, right? I love sharing my life with you. And sometimes I'm doing things that are meant to teach you something. So that's why I would have an ebook or an online course or an event. I don't really just do things to entertain, but maybe you watch things to be entertained and educated at the same time. So when I do like my vlogs, they're probably just entertainment. Or if I do a product review, maybe they're entertainment and a little bit of education, right? So it's so important to just keep coming back to that over and over and over again of just how can I help improve somebody's life in one way or another. So with that said, this has been a long video, and there's a lot I want to accomplish today to celebrate the 10-year anniversary. So I'm going to wrap this up, but thank you for being here. Thank you for celebrating with me. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your support. I love getting feedback from you in terms of what else you would like to see. And my assistant and I actually have a whole document now of requests. So if you have any requests, if you have any things that you want to see me do more of or less of, or topics that you want me to cover, or ways that you want me to do things, I want to hear it. I really do. I thrive off feedback. So hearing from you really means a lot. If you haven't noticed yet, you probably have because it's been pretty consistent, but my amazing assistant Melissa helps me answer every single comment now. We make sure we get back to emails faster. Like, it's been incredible. So I have her to thank, and I hope that you've noticed that we are much more connected. And just now you can rest assured that your voice will be heard and your opinion matters. And I'm so, so, so grateful for you. Thank you for being here on this journey, whether you're newly part of Eco Vegan Gal in my life, or you're someone like Value who's been in my life for 8+ years, maybe 10 years. If any of you have been watching for 10 years, I would love to hear from you and just your thoughts and all of that. And Francie said, don't forget vegan Indian food. Oh, maybe write a first memoir book. Yeah, I mean, potentially. I don't really love writing, though. That's the trick. I struggle. It's just like not something I really enjoy doing. I feel like I'd need to get like a ghostwriter or somebody to like dictate. I mean, maybe if I dictated everything. I've thought about that too. We'll see. And let's see. Vayu said, I thought Patreon would be less work. I think you need to simplify it. Very simple rewards. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I have in mind. So I'm working towards that. Thank you. And Ted said, if only you had bought some stock in the online sites you discover when they were so young. Tell me about it, right? Luckily, I did buy stock in Apple while I was working for them, and it has been a great investment, let me tell you, because I bought it for a fraction of what it's at now. And I just recently bought Tesla stock, which has been up and down, but we'll see. I have faith in Tesla as a company, so those are my 2 stock investments. You know, I've never been that big into stocks, but it's probably true that investing in some of these brands would have been really good. And I'm so glad to hear that, Ted, like knowing that, as he said, that I can improve your life and somehow that's really my goal, and to connect with you. I think many of us are just looking to connect. And I believe that my brand is going to be more in that direction of finding more ways to connect with you on an authentic level. As entertaining as somebody like Jake Paul is, I don't feel connected to him as a person. I'm not like a fan of Jake Paul. Like I'm very neutral. I liked the series that Shane did because it gave you more of a peek into his life. But, you know, a lot of those really big YouTubers, PewDiePie would be the exception. I actually started watching PewDiePie this year, and I actually feel like there's a vulnerability about him that I never noticed before. And I think he's funny, and he, you know, like, there's something about him that's really amazing to me. And regardless if you like his type of content or not, there's just something about him, and I think it explains why he's been so successful. And I've met so many YouTubers over the years. I know a lot of the successful YouTubers out there, and those of them that share really openly about their life and allow you to connect with them are the ones that I like the most. So that is continuously inspiration for me. And thank you so much for recognizing that, Francie. That's means a lot to me. When somebody can feel my intentions without me explicitly saying them, that's, what more can you ask for? All right, I'm going to get going, take a little break, and then get back to, I might do a live video on Facebook and or my other YouTube channel. So if you're online today, keep an eye out. They might be a little repetitive, but they'll probably be shorter and feel a little bit more polished or something. So the celebration continues. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.